Okay, so there's a big difference between circumference and area. Circumference is that distance around the circle, perimeter of a circle, versus area is inside the circle. The formula for circumference, there are two. The first one is 2 times radius times pi. Or diameter times pi. And yesterday, when we defined radius, I told you little r would be radius. And I told you little d would represent diameter. If you forgot that from yesterday, or you don't have that from yesterday, will you write that at the top of your paper? And we've got pi. Have you seen the pi symbol before? It represents an irrational number, which means it cannot be written as a fraction. It cannot be abbreviated. That's why it has its own special symbol and button on our calculator. Anyone know the area of a circle? From 8th grade? What?
Pi.
You're right, there is a pi. Just pi? Times r squared. Times r squared. Okay. We're going to start with our first example here. In my first example, what are we starting with? What's in this circle? What are they giving us? What? The radius. Yeah, this is r. This is our radius. I would label that r. It's our radius. Yesterday we used highlighters, so if you're still using a highlighter, I still recommend it when we're doing circles. This is our radius. We need to find the circumference. When I mean exact, I mean in terms of pi. So I'm going to go to the equation that has r in it, because I'm starting with r. So it's 2 times 5 times pi. And I want to leave my answer exact. So I am only going to multiply 2 times 5. What is 2 times 5? Oh boy. 10. So my answer is 10 pi. That's my circumference. When I approximate, I need to write the decimal. Okay, you've got your calculator. There is a pi button. So first I'm going to type in 10, because that was our original answer, and I'm going to hit times. So can you type in 10 and then times on your calculator? We're doing this together. Does anyone see the pi button on here? Where's the pi button?
Above the divide.
Yes, above our arrow. It's hard for me to see. Do you see it? It's above that little arrow key. So I'm going to click second because it's in blue, and then I'm going to hit that arrow key. And see, now I have 10 times pi in my calculator, and I'm going to hit enter. So my approximate answer would be 31.4. Okay? If I'm rounding to the nearest tenth. 31.4. Did everyone find the pi button on their calculator? Can you turn and talk to your partner? Did you find the pi button on your calculator? That's important. So we get 31.4. Questions about pi? Now we're going to do area. So we're going to do area. My radius is still 5. So I'm going to do 5 squared times pi. What's 5 squared? 5 squared. 25. So my exact answer is 25 pi. In my calculator, you're going to type in 25 times pi. So let's see if you guys can do that now. 25 times pi. My approximate is 78.5. Make a note here. This is units squared because we're doing area. We're doing area. What questions do we have about circumference and area? Let's look at number 2. I'm going to highlight this. Number 2, what am I starting with? Diameter. Diameter is 8. So then what's the radius? What did we notice yesterday? Yeah, 4 because it's cut in half. Fantastic. So now let's find the exact circumference. This time I'm just going to use the other formula because it's written in terms of diameter. So I'm going to do 8 pi. That's my exact answer. In my calculator, I'm going to do 8 times pi. I'm going to approximate to the nearest tenth, 21.5. Then we're going to do area. My radius is 4, so I'm going to do 4 squared times pi. What's 4 squared? 16 pi. And then in my calculator, I'm going to do 16 times pi. And I get 50.26. So if I round to nearest tenth, it would be 50.3. Remember that area is going to be labeled with units squared. What questions do we have about diameter, radius, using the two formulas? We good? Anyone's looking at the screen? All right, let's try 3 now. Let's try 3. Now we are given the circumference. So now we're given the circumference of the circle is 18 pi. So what's the radius? What's the radius? We have to work backwards here. So I like to think about it, if this is 18 pi and I want to know the radius, my area for circumference is 2 times pi times r. So then what is my radius? If you were to solve this for r, the pi's go away. 18 times 2 times r, well, I just divide by 2. R must be 9. Okay? Are we okay with that? Going backwards from the formula. Yep.
So it's like circumference and diameter. If we cut them both in half, is it the same thing?
Yeah, so like what would the diameter have been from that? Yeah, good. Yep. Did you guys hear her question? She asked about diameter, right? If I asked about diameter, you just say it's 18. It's next to pi. Okay? What's the area? Well, we're going to do 9 squared times pi. What's 9 squared? 81. So I'm going to say 81 pi units squared. Right now with your partner, I want you to try 4. Number 4. This time we start with the area. The area is 64 pi. So I'm going to take 64 pi and I'm going to set it equal to my area equation. Now, because there is pi on both sides, listen, because there's pi on both sides, I'm just going to divide by pi. Goodbye, pi. It's gone. So I'm left with 64 equals r squared. How do I get rid of a square? How do I get rid of a square? Square root. So then this means r is 8. Okay? So now I have to do the circumference, which is 2 times 8 times pi. If I leave it exact, it's 16 pi. If I multiply it out, it's about 5.3. What questions do we have about working backwards? We've got a composite figure. A composite figure, meaning it's a shape with 2 shapes together. So, number 5, we're looking at this ice cream cone shape. What is the top shape? Semicircle. Fantastic. Label it. It's a semicircle. It's half a circle. What's the bottom? A triangle. Oh my gosh, we've spent so much time on triangles. Lucky us, we get to do another triangle. We need to find the perimeter of this figure, then we need to find the area. So let's do the perimeter first. What would 6 be in relation to the circle? Diameter. So then r is 3. So first I'm going to do the circumference, which is 6 pi plus... What's the perimeter of this triangle? I know one side is 6. I know the height is 10. Oh man, how am I going to figure out the hypotenuse here? It's almost like we'll have to do Pythag theorem. 3 squared plus 10 squared equals unknown. It always comes back to Pythag theorem. It's haunting you? That's funny. Again, we're just doing Pythag theorem. Oh man, I get that one of the hypotenuse of this triangle is 10.4, which means the other side is also 10.4. And now we can add it all together. 10.4 and 10.4 plus... Well, wait a second. This is the circumference for a whole circle. Uh-oh. Yes, good. We can divide by 2. Divide that by 2. Then we'll add it all together. So in your calculator, do 6 pi. Then divide that by 2. About 9.4. 4 and 10.4. What did you get? What's the perimeter? What? 30.2 centimeters. Now we have to find the area. The area, what's the area of this triangle?
30.
Half times the base times the height. Brody's right. The area of the triangle is 30. How do we find the area of this semicircle? How do we find the area of this half circle? We're going to do 3 squared times pi. But that's a full circle. So what will I do to that? Divide by 2. So in total, what do we get? 30 plus what? 30 plus 4.5 pi. We should get about 44.1. Did you divide 9 pi by 2? What'd you get?
I got 14.137.
Okay, check it, because the triangle's at least 30. Yes, let's move on. Yes, we put centimeters squared. Do you want to do 6 together? We have to find the shaded area. Number 6. We've got a square, and inside is a circle. What's the side length of this square? Good job, it's 16. Yes, our side length of the square is going to be 2 of the radiuses, which is 1 diameter, so it's 16. So to find the area of a square, we do 16 times 16. You should get 256. That's the area of the square. How are we going to find the area of the circle now? 8 squared times pi, so 64 pi. So this is the square, this is the circle. How do I find the shaded area? Subtract 256 minus 64 pi. Let's see, can your calculator handle that? We're going to round to the nearest tenth. What do we get in the end? Yep, 54.9. What's our label here? Inches squared. What questions do we have about area and circumference? applying it further.